What is up, people? We are back on Beyond Earth. Today, we are doing another advanced tactics guide where we hone in on a specific concept from the game. And today's concept should be familiar to most of you, some it may be new to, but this is the topic city specialization. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is, a lot of beginner players just tend to build whatever they think they need in their city. They'll build a couple of farms, a couple of generators, a couple of mines or manufactories or whatever. And when you get to higher difficulties, especially if you played Civ 5, it really benefited to focus your cities on one particular thing, whether it was a food city, a production city, a energy city, a science city, things like that. Because in Civ 5, there were a lot of percentage buildings, which basically increase your a certain output by a certain percent. So if you had a city that had 100 output, then the percentage increase would be much larger than if you split it between cities. So city specialization was a tactic many people use to try to optimize their outputs. In this game, it's not quite as mandatory. Although there are improvements to specialize a city in anything, meaning you can build academies for a pure science city, you can build biowells for a health city, you can build anything and get any city to produce any output fairly easily. In Civ 5, it wasn't that easy. You usually needed a lot of hills for a production city in order to build mines. You needed a lot of grassland for a food city, la-di-da-di-da. In this game, any city can specialize in anything, but the percentage buildings are not as numerous, and they're also very, very um, late in the game and require certain resources. But we'll look over some of these later game or some of these things. I haven't actually done a ton of research, so we're just going to kind of click through. You can see most of the bonuses here. Here's one. Bioglass Furnace is a 15% boost to production, but it does require Firaxite and level 6 in Supremacy. Bionics Lab is a 20% increase to health, but it requires 4 impurity and also requires bionics. A lot of these mainly have a plus 1 to plus 5 boost in some other thing. But I know there's a couple more. Feed Site Hub, I believe, is one. No, I lied. Field Reactor is what I meant. 10% increase to energy from them. Do. But as you can see, most of these are fairly flat bonuses. Here we go. Hypercore, 15% science, but again, it requires Firaxite level 10 in Supremacy. Let's see. Institute. I'll point these out as we go through, but one important thing to remember when you're specializing, there's another one, 10% science, Mantle, requires Floatstone and level 6 impurity as well as Field Theory. And that's the Mantle. Microbial Mine is a 10% production boost, requires 7 in purity. Going through all of them here, just to make sure I don't miss anything. 10% science boost from Neural Labs, but again, that requires Firaxite. A lot of the Firaxite ones, or a lot of the Supremacy ones, I should say, involve production. I've noticed, or I mean science. And a lot of the production-focused ones are purity. You got a 50% science boost that requires level 8 in Supremacy. 20% boost from a Progenitor Garden, that is a purity-based one. And this obviously isn't including the quests, because I don't know all the quests by heart. Again, Sky Crane, 15% production, requires level 10 in purity. I think we've hit most. 15% culture boost, requires level 17, or does that say 17? No, 7 in purity. Alright, that's a little more logical. I think that's pretty much it for percentage buildings. Xeno Sanctuary, Xeno Fuel Plant. No, Xeno Nursery, 10% science, but again requires purity. There is the Solar Collector unit, and which also gives a percentage production boost. A lot of the orbital units give some percentage boost. If you want to see orbital units, I have a video on them. There are a lot of wonders that supposedly give decent um, boosts in percentages. I've never actually played with. I've never built a wonder, which is surprising considering how much I play this game, but I haven't really found a use for it. But anyway, so those are the percentage buildings. I just want to go over those quickly. So talking about how to utilize city specialization, it's a really kind of difficult thing to do because, like I said, there's not as many percentage buildings, and they all come later game. Excuse me. So, and they're also very affinity focused. It seems, production percentage bonuses focus around purity. Um, Science percentage bonuses seem to focus around supremacy. You have that big health percentage bonus that's focused around purity. So you don't really get percentage boosts till later in the game. If you were going to specialize a city, what I would recommend doing is, first of all, when you set up the city, set up the the trading routes and the old Earth relic to get it to start growing, and then there might be a couple of buildings you may want to build. If there's not a lot of food around, build a vivarium. If there's not a lot of production, build a recycler. But then you really want to just focus on the specific buildings that produce the output you want. Like when I have a science city, I will normally buy my trade depot and trade routes. I will build an old Earth relic. I may or may not build a vivarium if I need the food in it to keep it growing. But other than that, I pretty much solely get science buildings first. And then I might grab the production buildings if when you get into the later game science buildings, if you don't have a recycler, they're going to take too long to build. So production is pretty much important in most cities. But I really focus on the science. And then after that, I might get the gold buildings. But then I kind of just have them focus on industrial development or scientific development because I don't. If I not that energy is as much of a pain in the butt in this game as it was as gold could be sometimes in Civ 5, but having all your cities have all of your buildings is not that difficult, especially when you know how to abuse the trade route system in the game, which until that gets nerfed is pretty abusable, let's be honest. So, what should you specialize your cities in? Let's start with this. I almost always specialize my capital in gold, in just building generators, because it's hard to specialize in anything else that early except for food, and getting a bunch of gold early is really helpful when you start setting up your other cities to buy the trade routes and whatnot. From there, I almost always want one health focused city, especially in a game where I'm going to go to war because that'll help. I do like to have one science focused city, and I do like to have one production focused city. But at the minimum, after that, I just kind of specialize in whatever I feel like. When I go to war and I take capitals, I almost always specialize the capitals in health, because health is a very hefty resource right now. So it's good to have a lot of cities specialized in that. Um, there's not really much to go over other than that. You know, obviously also you have, I should mention, cities simply there to create a border between you and your enemy, and I call those border specialized cities. And usually, whether you do production, you want them specialized so they can defend really well. Whether it's with the not walls in this game, but the defensive bonuses, the defensive satellite, all that stuff. So those are really the main types of specializations. You can do a food specialization, though I haven't tested how effective it is in this game, and you can also do a culture specialization, but again, I have yet to test that. So, with that being said, that's really all there is to this video. It's not that in-depth, but feel free to leave questions in the comments, and I'll answer them as best I can. I didn't have a ton of time to research this topic greatly, so I did leave a lot out, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave, and I will answer them when I get the chance. Leave any other Beyond Earth content you'd like to see. I need more ideas for these advanced tactics guides. And then like and subscribe if you want more content, and I will see you guys next time.